We're back with some crazy news stories of crypto criminals, from scammers to con artists and, of course, fraudsters. So get ready to find out how much damage they did and what their fates turned out to be. Oh, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe because we have plenty more where that came from. But enough chit-chat. Let's meet our first criminal. Kwon is no stranger to this list. He's been mentioned into previous episodes. However, today we will finally dive deep into his story and find out how he managed to ruin thousands of investors' lives. Born on May 8, 1988, Kwon was always interested in making money. During college, he started working at a marketing firm and soon moved to Apple, where he worked as an engineer until 2013. He would eventually leave Apple to join a social media app called Path, but his time there was cut short when Path laid off dozens of employees in 2015. This was right around the time when crypto was blowing up, and Kwon realized this might be his chance to make the big bucks. In September 2017, Kwon co-founded a project called AnySwap, which was meant to connect different blockchain networks. In February 2018, he went all in on crypto full-time when he and his business partner took $21 million worth of cash, converted it to Bitcoin, and locked it in a cold storage wallet. Just 1 year later, Kwon and his team launched a new project called Terra. This time, instead of connecting blockchains, Terra was supposed to solve the volatility issue. The goal was to create stable coins whose prices were pegged to other assets like the US dollar. Kwon argued that crypto was too volatile to be used for everyday purchases, so he aimed to change that. In July 2020, Terra launched its first stablecoin called Terra USD. It was paired with another crypto token called Luna. For every 1 USD, there was supposed to be 1 Luna. The pair remained relatively stable throughout 2020. That was until May 2021, when Terra USD briefly dipped below $1. To stabilize the price, Luna had to burn tokens to increase its value. By the end of May, there were 350 million Luna tokens left. But just 3 months later, there were only 100 million left. Despite this, Terra USD remained strong, trading at almost $1 throughout 2021. But the good times didn't last long. On May 2022, everything went south. Terra USD dropped to 60 cents and Luna plummeted to $12. Within hours, both tokens had gone to zero and stayed there. Today, the total value locked in Terra has reached almost $4 billion, meaning $4 billion worth of investments were wiped out in minutes. Now, while Kwon did not directly profit from the collapse of Terra, he did profit indirectly through the value of his personal crypto holdings. He had about 800 million Luna tokens worth roughly $300 million. While that's far from the billions he once managed, it's still a hefty amount. South Korean authorities are currently looking for him, but he remains missing. They've even revoked his citizenship. Wherever you are, Kwon, we hope you enjoyed your time at the top. Next up, let's look at a Ponzi scheme that managed to trick some big names in crypto. It all started in 2013 when a young entrepreneur named Trevor Noah Jones founded a company called Bitcoin. In October 2013, he launched a website called Mt. Gox and started offering Bitcoin trading. Business went well, and in January 2014, Mt. Gox expanded to international markets. But just 4 months later, they ran into problems. On February 24, 2014, users started reporting issues with the site, and soon it became clear that something was wrong. Some customers couldn't withdraw their funds. Others found their accounts were empty. Before long, it became clear that Mt. Gox had scammed everyone. They had taken everyone's money and run away. So, who exactly was behind this scheme? There were 2 main culprits. The first was Jed McCaleb, the founder of Ripple. Jed bought 8% of the company and helped build the exchange during its early days. The second person involved was Mark Karpeles. Mark was a Japanese national who had worked at Mt. Gox since its inception. He had overseen its daily operations and ensured everything ran smoothly. When Mt. Gox collapsed, both men disappeared. Jed allegedly fled to Thailand and Mark to Brazil. It wasn't long before the news caught up with them, though. Both men faced multiple lawsuits and allegations of theft. Jed eventually agreed to pay a settlement of $10 million while Mark refused to cooperate and is still fighting lawsuits to this day. What's perhaps most surprising is that neither man was ever charged criminally. Finally, let us take a look at the case of a scammer who stole over $100 million worth of crypto and then went on the run. Before we start, make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. With that said, let's meet our next criminal. Nicholas Cosmo was born on March 8, 1982. He grew up in Westbury, New York and studied finance at Hofstra University. After graduation, he worked as an equities trader at an investment company called Jane Street. Nicholas was eager to learn and quickly rose through the ranks. By 2007, he was the youngest director in the company's history. But Nicholas was ambitious. He wanted more than what Jane Street could offer. So, he started planning his next move. In late 2008, Nicholas quit his job and set up an investment fund called Empire Avenue. At first, everything seemed to be going well. He attracted several high-profile investors and started generating impressive returns. But this was thanks to a clever ruse. Nicholas wasn't actually investing his clients' money. Instead, he was paying earlier investors with money from new investors. To cover up his tracks, he told investors that they needed to hold their shares for 90 days. But many investors couldn't resist and sold their shares early. This meant Nicholas had to come up with increasingly large sums of money to keep the scam going. Eventually, though, he couldn't keep up with demand and his whole scheme collapsed. Once it became clear that Nicholas had scammed his investors, they demanded their money back. Nicholas was forced to liquidate his positions and repay everyone. But this was easier said than done. For one thing, he had invested a huge chunk of his clients' money into liquid real estate. Also, Nicholas had mixed his clients' funds with his own, meaning they were hard to separate. Even after selling everything, Nicholas didn't have enough to go around. Most investors lost at least part of their investment. One investor called Lawrence Casalinova was the worst hit. She had put in $10 million and lost it all. Meanwhile, Nicholas had fled to the Dominican Republic. The FBI soon got wind of this and arrested him on fraud charges. In December 2010, he pleaded guilty to running a Ponzi scheme and securities fraud. In February 2011, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Nicholas tried appealing the sentence, but in vain. In 2018, he was transferred to a federal prison in North Carolina. Although he's eligible for release in 2036, it's unclear if he'll ever get out. Many of his victims believe he should serve his full term. Lawrence Casalinova said, "He ruined a lot of families, not just mine. He needs to stay in jail." That's all for this episode. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already and catch you in the next one.